Hey, what's going on, everybody? I just spent the last 30 minutes trying to figure out how to set some light in here. Um, Fortunately, when I wear my glasses, you can see everything in front of me, and it was really annoying. So, this is the best I can do. I'm going to try to uh, not keep looking up because that's annoying me, and I'm sure it's annoying you. But, whatever. So, welcome to the Dashboard Casserole episode 2. Um, Shout out to my co-host who is under the weather at the moment. I wish you a speedy recovery. Can't wait for you to get back. Until then, somehow I landed on the idea to do a solo episode, completely different from the first episode, but diving right into some of the stuff that we had mentioned that we were going to get into, some pretty deep conversations. So welcome to my humble abode. This is from my own home, in my little studio I have going on at home. As some of you may know, I do create music for a band called Accuse the Villain, where the magic happens right here in this room. Not a lot of magic, just a lot of crappy ideas and counting on other people to help me turn them into good ideas, and same process with the rest of the guys. So, so today, not prepared to do this by myself. I rather have somebody to talk to. I'm never comfortable just talking to a phone, to a camera. It's a little awkward, but I'm going to get through it. So today's episode, some of you may know, we've been posting about it online. I got into my feels a little bit about a section of my life I don't really talk about a whole lot with a lot of people at all. Maybe a few know, have been around with me for a while. I posted about how change is good, and when you change, everything changes. And by that, I feel like I have to set the stage for what I mean by that. So this is going to be a long episode. Hopefully you stick around. I hope nobody calls me in the middle of this, because I'm using my phone to record. It's going to be a long one, so I should probably get going. I was going to do this just organically off the top of my head and kind of talk to you guys about a little bit about me and some honest stuff that's happened throughout my life that's gotten me to where I am today. I wasn't going to type it out. I was just going to talk about it, but I have a tendency to get ahead of myself sometimes. I tend to jump around a lot, try to keep things organized. Make sure I ain't got any boogers. Oh well. So I went ahead and got some tea, some mint tea ready. So this is going to be a good one. So I hope you'll have your beverage of choice. Sit back wherever you may be and dive right into some stuff. One of the best mugs ever. If you know, you know. If this video doesn't make it out there and it's strictly audio, just know that I'm holding up a coffee mug that I'm drinking tea out of that is a card from Cards Against Humanity that references Daniel Radcliffe's sprinkled donut, and that's the best I'm going to say about that. So I made a post a couple days ago about where I had to start my life completely over. I was honestly sick and tired of myself. And like I said, I feel like that's really hard for people that don't know me, for me to explain. So I feel like I'm going to have to take this back to my teenage years so we can talk a little bit about relationships and why maybe they didn't work out. But I just want to be clear. I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm not saying names. I'm not here to call anybody out. I'm just stating the facts that I can remember the best I can. If I can't, I'm definitely going to acknowledge that. This is from my perspective. So if you're ready for a little tea and drama about where my life has led me, let's get started. All right. So I wrote it down. I wasn't trying to read it to you, but I'm going to try to do a little bit of both so I can keep on track here because there's a lot. So I guess I called this phase 1, before everything fell apart. During my teenage years, I was already dealing with a bunch of stuff. At a young age, there were other things on my mind. My home life, questionable. I didn't really have the most loving step parent. I hated school. It was miserable. The only upside was I didn't have to be at home and I could see my friends. That was my sense of freedom. Just being away from home, but I really didn't like being at school either. I was just a simple kid though. I love music. Video games, I really don't play too many these days. I am looking forward to Grand Theft Auto 6 though. I will play that, probably when it comes out in the next millennium. I don't even know. Friday nights for me back in high school was a Papa John's pizza, Mountain Dew, and a PlayStation 2. I also had a 60-disc stereo blasting music. So that was my escape as a teenager. I tried to be simple. You know, I got grounded a lot. I'm not going to lie. A lot. To a point where I got the mindset that if I'm already in trouble, I can't get in more trouble. So I just started doing what I wanted anyway. Sorry for that, but here we are. Learn my lessons. I didn't really have serious girlfriends in middle school. The do you like me, check yes or no notes. Good pastimes for people in school. Passing notes was a thing before, texting and everything. It wasn't later until high school I really started feeling for someone, but honestly, it was probably my senior year. I mean, I dated a few girls in high school, but it wasn't until like my senior year I started to actually feel it. That nervous excitement, heartbreak potential, the kind of emotions that can take over your brain and your chest. I mean, young love, it's intense. My first real love came when I started working at a local electronics store when I was about 18, maybe stretching into 19, somewhere around there. I experienced what I'd called my first real girlfriend, my real first relationship that I cared about. I don't mean any disrespect if any exes see this, just being honest. And yeah, at that age, the first thing you notice about someone is usually not their personality. It's physical, but you know what? At the same time, she was sweet. She was kind. She was loving. She was very, very attached. She was very, very... now looking back at it, the word clingy is a bit extreme. God, these days, at my age, I feel like people would give a little bit of clingy a chance at this point. I mean, it's hard to get people to want to be close to you these days. Here's the problem with being 18, 19, 20, and in love. You have feelings, but you don't really have any tools to manage those feelings. No guidance. When things get tough, you don't know how to navigate. You feel sad, confused, angry, and if no one's ever shown you the process, it can become messy. Her parents didn't really like me. I never felt fully welcomed at her house, but she always reassured me, no, it's fine. Well, when relationships started hitting bumps, those outside influences convincing her, I wasn't the one, things started getting messy, and I just wasn't really equipped to handle it. We decided to take a break. Again, the way I remember may not be 100%, but take it with a grain of salt. That's, one reason or another, we were not okay. Because at a point I did hear that she was seeing somebody else, and that's when panic happened. And for some reason, the first thing that came to mind was I had to get her back. So, desperate measures. What does a confused, emotionally unstable teenager, young adult boy do? He buys a ring. Because obviously, that's going to fix it, right? Well, I tried texting her. I called her. Anything to get her back. We saw each other on and off. It was confusing for both of us at the time, but eventually she didn't choose me, and I never gave her the ring. That was my first real heartache. I didn't know how to handle it. I cried. I hurt. It was probably toxic, but I didn't know how to process that kind of pain at that age. So, self-destruction enter. One night, I was house sitting at my mom's. She wasn't home. I forget what they were doing now, but I was house sitting. By this point, I had to have been 19, 20. No, I don't think I was 21 yet. Maybe. I don't know. But out of self-destruction, I decided to chug a 12-pack of PBR in under 10 minutes. And let me tell you, that was not fun because it ended up all over the lawn. I didn't feel better. And obviously the next morning I felt even worse because that was one of the worst hangovers I ever had. Obviously, and I shouldn't have been drinking. I think, again, timeline's a little messy. Either way, it was a bad time. Okay? So, here's part of the story, though, too. So, if you believe the idea that you only fall in love 3 times in your life, this was strike 1. So, but, what do you do when you're down? You gotta get back up. So, time had passed. We had made amends. And actually, today, we're close friends. She's still the same sweet person. I can finally say we were just too young to make adult decisions. Sometimes people are just better off friends than anything else. I think she's a great human being. I adore her for who she is. But but this chapter taught me some important lessons. Love without emotional maturity feels very intense, but it can be very destructive too. Life lessons. It was young love. Again, we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we weren't bad people. We just didn't know how to handle it. So, but I acknowledge my flaws. Very immature, young. So, for what it counts, if you hear this, I know we've talked before. I do apologize for my juvenile behavior back then, but here we are. Time to move on. Let's talk about phase 2. Okay? On the tail end of my first breakup at that point, I was single and drifting. I hung out with my friends. I was meeting girls through parties and whatnot, just trying to figure out this thing called life. Turning 21 had introduced me to the bar scene, which was hopping at that time. I was living out of my own at this point and in my first apartment. I had a job that paid my rent and my beer. I sure loved my beer back then. We drank a lot of it. Every Tuesday was karaoke at Buffalo Wild Wings, for those of you that remember. Those were some of the best times ever. Every Thursday was club night at Lux in Akron. And every Friday and Saturday was beer pong at someone's house. And this is how I met my next person. So, if you need to get up, do something, pause, now's the time, because this one is long. All right, well, this next person, I met her through parties and friends, and boy, did I not know what I was in for. This connection didn't start right away, as she was actually seeing a friend of mine at the time, but he was going through girlfriends like people go through underwear. So it is what it is. Looking back, it was extremely juvenile and just irresponsible, but most of us were not very responsible 21 or 22-year-olds. When my friend and her did split, she was still around in the circle of friends, so there was still a connection. At some point, her and I had exchanged numbers, probably just because, back then, she was just still part of the friends circle. So that's how we kind of stayed connected. At some point, it was cute, but what would a girl like that want with a guy like me? I wasn't exactly Mr. Outgoing back then. I always had low self-esteem. Oddly enough, though, our text started shifting to more personal conversations. Our conversations weren't about the fallout of her breakup anymore. It was shifting into something more personal, something more between our similarities. Our common interests, all of a sudden, I was getting butterflies about this girl. Just naturally started to happen. And to test the waters, I told her I was starting to like her, and she responded that she was starting to like me too. I couldn't believe it. So, of course, instead of meeting at parties, we started meeting at my place. I had a roommate at the time, so we were planning our own private parties. Beer pong at my place and a place to crash so no one was driving home. Perfect. Cover your ears, boys and girls, as you can already imagine where this led. Next thing you know, I was hooked. I was infatuated with this girl. At the time, I thought she was the greatest thing to happen to me. I have to add that she also had a little daughter that ended up being my little shadow. When I was around, that little girl was attached to my hip. She would not leave my side. We connected, and she was the coolest little kid. So I felt like this is it. We were going to be great together. Or so I thought. So when someone you are dating has a child, there's also something else that comes along with it. This child did not just have a mother. Yeah, they usually have a jealous, toxic word of a dad somewhere too. And I say that from my experience as well. I am well aware that there is a vice versa side to that statement as well. Let's just say this guy was not okay with his ex being happy. I began to get harassing phone calls, texts, you name it. This guy was just going to be a problem. At that point, I just thought if I killed him with kindness, he would go away. This guy would text me the most repulsive things and say the most vile stuff you could imagine about what he was going to do to this girl in front of me. I tried to talk him down, but eventually he would play nice and just try to do to me exactly what I was doing to him. Nope. We were just playing each other and trying to just get each other to leave the girl alone. This girl would reassure me that he's just crazy and to ignore him. She explained that he was a drug addict and that he wasn't in his right state of mind. Well, this is where the timeline gets a little fuzzy for me. I don't remember when, I don't remember how, but I think if I remember correctly, the next thing that happened would start to mold this relationship. All of a sudden, I was getting pictures from this guy, and it was of my girlfriend naked. And I'm not going to tell you anything more about what was happening in this picture. I'll just tell you it wasn't of just her, if you understand what I am telling you. Of course, my stomach was in knots. A million different emotions running through me. What is this? Why is this happening? What could the explanation possibly be? In panic mode, I'm trying to reach her. Again, timeline is fuzzy. I really can't remember when or how I reached her, but all I remember is that her answer was that it was an old picture and he was just being an a-hole. At the time, all I could do was give her the benefit of the doubt. He was an asshole. And yeah, they were a couple at one point. How was I to know the difference? I'm young, insecure, and in love with a girl who loves me back. So of course I believed her. Let's also add that my girlfriend would take their daughter to his place to drop her off very often. Was always told it's a simple drop off. He doesn't drive. And that's just how it was. Yeah, sure. At this point, I was in too deep. She could tell me anything and I would believe it, since we practically almost spend majority of our weeks together when we weren't working. Well, I guess there's no dramatic way to segue into the fact that I was finding out that she was, in fact, sleeping with him, and he was, in fact, going to her work. And they were, in fact, sleeping with each other. I was crushed. Once again, just hurt. I was not close with my family at this point, but I came very close with hers. I would turn to her parents and try to talk and find out what was going on. I would do my best to reach out to her to explain how I felt. And eventually, as time went on, she apologized. She was wrong. She made mistakes and told me everything I wanted to hear. She said the right things to where eventually she would want to talk in person and would use her kiddo to get to me. I was a sucker for my shadow, so of course, my emotions told me it felt right to go over and talk. At the time, we only lived about a mile away from each other, and after a night of talking, I guess everything was okay once again. We were going to move on from it, and things were going to be different. Now let me tell you this also. Looking back, the signs were all there. Not just from him, but from her. We were in a relationship, but we would still go out drinking and go to clubs together. This girl was able to wear a shirt and call it a dress. She would get drunk and let everything hang out. She loved the attention, and whenever I had something to say about it, she would just tell me I am insecure and controlling and that it wasn't a big deal. In my mind, I battled with the idea that maybe I was just being a little bitch about it and just to let her do her thing, trying to find a different way to view it, like be proud that all the guys are looking because she's going home with me at the end of the night. Let me tell you now. Fuck that noise. That is not okay behavior. And if that's something similar to what you have going on right now, nah, that ain't okay. But different times, different perspectives. But we'll get that to that later. We'll get back to that later. Looking back, I feel like I was groomed in a way. I was groomed and forced into a new normal. I was forced to just let her act the way she did, swallow my own wrong opinions about it, and just let it happen. Hell, even my friends were giving me the eye and just telling me I was dumb, but what did they know? I was in love. Love? Or lust? Yeah, love, right? At that age, I don't know. I feel like I'm doing an injustice by skipping the details, but we would be here for hours if I gave you everything throughout these 6 years with her. But let's fast forward. I had moved to Columbus with my mom and my brother while I continued to date this girl back in Worcester, Ohio. I moved with the intent on going back to school to invest into my future. The distance between myself and my girlfriend was tough, but I would drive up almost every weekend to be with her. There were rare times that she drove to me. I'll just say my mom was not happy with her. Never liked her, and rightfully so. I get it. I get it now. My girlfriend was doing me dirty, and as a parent, she just wanted to protect her kids. And yes, even experienced me shopping once again for a ring. But this time, I did not go through with it. Longer story short, coming to find out, she was becoming friends with a guy that was once in our party group. It was nothing, right? Kevin, don't be controlling. Don't be that guy who says who your girlfriend can and can't hang with. Kevin, guys and girls can be friends, and that's it. Yes, I do agree with that statement. Guys and girls can and will be just friends. I have plenty of girlfriends who are just friends. But never, ever, ever cross boundaries. Living in Columbus, this girl probably got away with more than I will ever know, but let me tell you about a time in this town of Worcester, Ohio. If you were born and raised in Worcester, you have eyes and ears everywhere. I was informed one night that my girlfriend's car was parked at this, quote, friend's house late at night. Yeah, weird, she's not answering my texts or calls. That's not good. When I tell you tension was building over time, once I heard about her car at old dude's house, I snapped. My brother and my mom knew what was happening, but I waited until they left the house. And then I hopped in my truck and I hit that highway back to Worcester fast as boy. I was hauling ass. My brother knew. He called me as soon as he knew I was gone, and he talked to me the whole way. Told me I should have taken him with me. He told me, just don't go to jail. It's not worth it. And he was actually more understanding and receptive to the situation than I really expected. Looking back, these actions were very crazy and reckless and very immature. But here we go. With at least a 2-hour drive in between, I probably got there around 10, maybe 11 p.m. And there it was. Her car in this dude's driveway. And she still hasn't answered my texts. This is it. What am I going to do? I could see in the window, and there they were, sitting on the couch, lights off, watching TV. I had to do something. So I did. I knocked on that door. I'm not stupid. It's late. So I'm sure there is suspicion on who could be knocking at the door this late. And I hear this dude's voice. Who is it? He's going to know it's me. So I pretended to be his neighbor. I told him some bullshit excuse, something about a car outside. I don't really remember. But as soon as I heard those doors start to unlock, I busted in that door and I put that dude against the hallway wall. Full of rage, full of anger, I even think my brother was still on the phone in my pocket, listening to the whole thing. I look over and see her sitting on the couch looking at me. First thing out of her mouth, "Oh my God, you're crazy." What are you doing here? We are just hanging out. Now I'm the disrespectful one. Me. I'm the disrespectful one, right? I am the one who traveled 2 hours at night. I'm the one who barged into this house. I am the one with a man by his throat up against his wall. What have I done? There came a point where he tried speaking to me and he cowered down. He didn't try to fight me. He didn't do anything. He just told me they were just friends. And it became clear finally that I didn't believe a word either of them had said. I didn't believe a word anymore. And I sure didn't believe her. I knew they were lying. I knew she was cheating again. After my white knuckles became unhinged from this man, I took a deep breath, I said my piece, and just remember getting back in my truck to drive all the way back home. Now, when I tell you I was defeated in this moment, I was defeated. There were many times where this girl was sleeping around while with me, and this relationship was almost 6 years old, and I found out so many times things were happening that I chose to sweep under the rug. I finally hit my breaking point. I was crushed. I was hurt. Hurt more that I had been so humiliated that I became something that felt like I just wasn't worth love. I wasn't worth honesty. Wasn't worth the respect. Wasn't worth the air that I breathe. If you've experienced heartbreak, you know it's pain worse than 90% of physical pain. Found myself asking, what have I become? Just a shell of a person. How pathetic am I? I was stripped down to nothing. And this is where it gets dark. Mom, if you're listening, I know we have touched on this topic, but just know it's not something you want to hear. Sitting in my bedroom in Columbus one night, all alone, quiet. Just feet away from my room was my brother's room, where I'm sure he was sleeping, and across the little hallway, I could see my mom's TV light shining under her door and faintly showing under my bedroom doorway. I sat on the end of my bed just feeling empty, just defeated, just pain. Pain again and again. Just lost. Not sure how to manage my emotions. I had been through a roller coaster of fuckery for all of these years. Constant cheating, constant manipulation, constant pointing fingers that everything was my fault. I know I'm not perfect, but what have I done to deserve this? I've always been good to the people I love. It didn't matter what I did. It happened. There was nothing else left to do but to just not be here anymore. So I did the very thing you should never, ever follow through with. At the time, I was a gun collector, and I decided that it was time to end this pain I was feeling. At that point, I just felt like I was just skin and bone, wasting space on this planet where people don't see me for who I am, but what they can use me for. It's time to be gone from this wretched planet. So I stuck the barrel of my 12 gauge right into my mouth. Sitting on the edge of my bed, my accent wall of the room was already painted red, so yeah. I felt like this was my only escape. Because even the people closest to me would just get mad at me when I talk about my problems. All they would do is just control me. It's so easy to tell me what I can and can't do because you just don't understand me. All you want me to do is what you want me to do. So I am going to do what I want to do. With the taste of that barrel in my mouth, snot running down my nose, and just a waterfall of tears running down my face, this was it. And just in the blink of an eye, split seconds before I followed through, as if someone was standing in the room at that moment, I heard it. I heard clarity. I heard a voice say, "We're not done yet." As if in slow motion, I pulled the gun from my mouth. I took the shell out and put the 12 gauge on the floor in disbelief. What just happened? I was just so drained and so tired and so worn from everything. It was like I was just in this out-of-body experience, like I had been dreaming. The stress, the confusion, it finally took its toll, as I think my head just went crashing down on my pillow and my body shut down. It was time for healing. I would also like to take this time to note that at this point of my life, I had allowed myself to weigh almost 300 pounds. So if that doesn't add to the self-worth category, yeah, I was in a bad spot. I was also working in Columbus on the maintenance crew that worked for the company to which where my family and I lived in on that property. There's a condo community, and I was the guy that went and repaired things in people's homes, or during the summer, I was the pool boy. Great scenery in the summer, by the way. On these properties, the community provided a gym for its residents, and as an employee, I had free access to those gyms. So to work on my self-worth, since for some reason I woke up that next morning, said, I'm still here. We aren't done yet. I decided I want to lose some weight. So I started researching proteins. I began lifting weights. I started running, which I get no enjoyment out of. But I had a new goal. I was ready to get myself in shape. Over the next few months, I noticed how much better I was feeling, how much my mental health was improving, how much my confidence was improving. I was starting to feel good. So I decided to give dating in Columbus a try. I went on plenty of dates, but to be honest, I just wasn't ready. I just couldn't give them the energy they were expecting. I just wanted to hang out, relax, have a good time with new people. But it became confusing to these ladies when I wasn't pushing myself onto them. I really didn't care because I just didn't connect with them on a higher level. But I will say, I made some friends that I still on occasion keep in touch with. And that's the beauty of not crossing boundaries. No awkwardness, no resentment. We were just able to stay friends, and I cherish that. So without developing any real attachments in Columbus, one day I received a phone call from an old friend from back home, and he asked, "Hey man, what are you doing in Columbus? Would you be interested in working in a jail?" For someone who was wanting to be in law enforcement, and I just gotten myself into real good shape, at the time, this was an easy hell yeah. So it looks like after these past few years, it was time for me to come back home. Strike 2 was complete. On to phase 3. It took some time for me to drive back and forth for the interviewing process for this jail job, but the next question was, where was I going to live? The answer came rather quickly, as I had some old friends who told me I could live with them until I found a place of my own. Perfect. During this phase of back and forth, I had another friend who I stayed in touch with, and she had asked me if I was single and if I was interested in dating because she wanted to introduce me to a friend and thought we would be great together. At the time, again, I wasn't taking much serious, as I had a lot on my plate and I just didn't know what I was ready for. But you know what? I said, sure, let's talk. Who is she? What does she do? And all that blah, 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 My friend sends me her Facebook along with some selfies that she had taken, and to my surprise, I thought, wow, she's gorgeous. But sometimes looks don't match the personality, so of course I'm skeptical. But I was willing to see where it went. I feel a hair better about myself these days and feel like I'm just moving back home, so why not meet some new people in the process? I don't really remember who messaged who first, so if I get this wrong, I apologize. But I think my friend gave me her number, and I got the courage to text her first. It started out easy. She was super upbeat and talkative, very nice, and had a good sense of humor. Of course, it started out with the small talk, asking the usual questions, and come to find out, she was kind of in a similar fresh breakup situation from not long ago, and when she found out I was actually moving back to Worcester, she admitted she was taken back by the timing, as she felt like there was time still, since there was distance between us. But odd timing, I was coming home to work at the jail. I want to say around this time I was about 28 years old or so, so I still had friends that still hosted parties. One night, my friends that introduced me to this new girl decided to host game night and invited both of us. It was time to meet this girl that I was developing a connection with. Details are a little fuzzy, but I just remember seeing her for the first time and thought that she was even prettier in person. She was so likable too. The charm, the smile, the laugh, the easygoing humor was all there. The night of cards and drinks just couldn't have gone any better. Uh-oh. Here we go again. This was it. Best of both worlds. She's pretty and with an amazing personality. We went well together. She was easily likable. She was an extrovert who did the talking when we went out, so I could just be my introverted self and just chill. Everyone knew her. She was the kind of person who didn't know a stranger. When we started dating and we went out, she was someone who everyone seemed to gravitate towards, but in a positive way. The amazing impact she had on people was quite inspiring. This was that relationship I had wanted. This was the person who knew boundaries, was able to have friends, but that's all it was. Everyone that knew her knew me. By proxy, I made a lot of friends. Everyone always said, quote, "If you are dating her, you must be one of the good ones," end quote. And that made me feel really good. I am one of the good ones, and it's about time it finally started to show. Over time, it was obvious that my family loved her, and it felt like her family was mine and mine was hers. She showed that she was the type of person that you could take home to meet the family. And obviously, after the last statement, they did, and it worked. She was loving, caring, went out of her way to make birthdays and holidays special, making sure that I knew that I was the love of her life. This made me feel motivated enough again to once again be romantic. Suddenly, I found poetry flowing back to me, going above and beyond with flowers, making this girl know she was the one. Things were going great. What could go wrong? At this point, I had moved in with another buddy who needed a roommate, and well, I also needed a roommate. We had a garage where we all hung out and even jammed on some instruments from time to time. One night, just like any other normal night, she was coming over to spend time with me. Or so I thought. I was just sitting in the garage, just playing my guitar, and I see her headlights pulling into our usual parking spot. I see her walking towards me with a certain look in her eyes, and in some similar words, she says, "We need to talk." Shit. That's never good. The conversation began as she started asking about our future. Where is this going? What are we doing? Then she hits me with, "I want to get married. I want kids. I want the white fence in front of a house." Then she says, "What do you want?" I sat there for a moment. Do I tell her the truth, or do I lie and tell her what she wants to hear? I looked down at my guitar, and I looked back at her, and I said, "I want to chase my dreams. I want to travel the world. I want to live life beyond imagination." Well, that was not the right answer, as I could see tears starting to form in her eyes. At this point, it was clear that we both wanted different things out of life. But it started to set in that even though we both wanted those things with each other, those were lives that were impossible to satisfy both of us at the same time. Looking back on this time, we were not in any position to be discussing kids in a house. Neither of us were in career roles that were suitable to be able to handle these sort of things to an appropriate standard. So that was it. It was pretty much settled right there in that garage that things were changing. Again. Now, after this happened, we were in this tango where, of course, we still loved each other, and we ran in the same group of friends, so of course we saw each other. Continued to see each other. If you know, you know. It was a very confusing time as we had feelings, but it was clear that there was no future if we both wanted different things. So this wedge started to build between us. Distance, but in an emotional way. Not that much later, she had begun talking to or seeing somebody new. Even then, she would still come to my house for friends' parties, football games on TV, etc., and would still try to hold my hand when we were sitting next to each other. This also created some confusing feelings. Like, wait, are we still seeing each other? I thought you were seeing someone else. Now I am confused even more. Feelings are happening that I haven't felt in a while. This pain sucks. So just like old Kevin fashion, I decided I needed to get her back. Why do I do this? I did everything in my power to let her know that I had changed my mind and that I wanted things to work. I did not get the answer I expected, as it seems like she had made the choice to move on without me. This is what I thought she wanted. Here we go again. Right into heartbreak and the vicious cycle. I didn't go anywhere. I needed her to know that I was serious. This didn't help matters as I tried to wedge my way between her and something new. It didn't work for a while until after some time she had told me this new guy left her. The nice guy that I am, of course I was there for her. But I needed her to see that it happened for a reason, because I am who she's to be with. It was fate. I knew it had to be. To my surprise, we did start hanging out more again. Slowly, but some was better than nothing. One day, she was texting me about some things weighing on her about us, and I asked her to meet so we could talk in person. When she did, she expressed how it was really hard for her to see me the same way after we had broken up. And there was something bothering her. She said it bothered her that I could never say I love you. Something broke in me, as I could feel my stomach in my throat. She knew that was difficult for me due to the previous relationships, but she stated that it's not fair that she's deprived of that, which I absolutely agree. So I was backed into a corner. I knew it was now or never. I swallowed that pride, and I told her that I loved her. I told her I loved her more than I can put into words, and that she deserved that. That moment held such an emotional weight that I can't even put into words today. I could see it in her eyes that it just wasn't enough anymore. I think at that point it was getting late and she agreed to come to my house to continue talking and ended up staying over. Enter a fuzzy timeline, but I had caught wind that she was talking to someone new. Again. I couldn't give up now, though. She's who I wanted. A few days, maybe a week or two. Again, timelines are fuzzy, but we had a wedding to go to. a mutual friend, and I was under the impression that we were going as each other's dates. The day of the wedding, she sends me a text along the lines of, quote, "Hey, today's the day. I can't wait to see you. I just wanted to let you know that I am bringing someone." Right then and there, I already knew the rumors were true. Once again, it broke me. It broke me so bad that I skipped my friend's wedding. Selfishly, broken, I didn't go. I couldn't go. How inappropriate would it be, and how stupid I would feel? I found myself, once again, broken. What just happened? Yep, as you can imagine, this was a process. After some time, I gathered my words to send her one final goodbye. I don't believe I was nasty. I don't believe I was toxic. I was the good guy and needed her to know that everything I'd said and felt was true. But as long as she gets her dream, I can't be anything but happy for her. This was goodbye. Strike 3. Now, here is where the turning point in my life took shape. Per usual, the next few weeks, the next few months, were a pain in my ass. Of course, every day I went to work, and my job was the last place I wanted to be. Anything but my job right now. I am just so sick of everyone and everything again. My attitude was awful. I am sure what friends I did have were sick of me at that point. I just had a hard time bouncing back from heartbreaks, as I wear my heart on my sleeve. Whatever that may look like to everyone else, I just have a way about me. What you see is what you get kind of guy. But I knew that everyone else was sick of me. This is where I knew that I was just fed up with my own shit. I was laying practically face down on my couch one night after my second shift job, and this is where something clicked again. In that moment, I knew something had to change. Something had to give. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being this person. I can't keep doing the same thing expecting something different. I was so beyond done with my own shit that I decided to declare that that day was the death of me. We have choices in this life. Get up or get out. And I was still here for a reason. Remember, we're not done yet. So, I got off that couch and went straight to the gym. I was done talking about it. It was time to be about it. Time for a social blackout. I am done with people. I am done allowing access to my life. I am done as I have to figure out my own shit. I felt like I was just constantly pouring from an empty cup. I had nothing left, and it was time to start filling my own cup up once again. For the next 5 years, I chose to be single. I did not care. I was not going to allow myself to keep being that person who gets it wrong. I need to fix it. I need to mentally and emotionally alter my patterns. I started reading I Am a Miserable Fuck kind of books. That's a real book. I started listening to Trent Shelton, who shed so much light on things I could not put into words. My feelings, my confidence, my own bullshit. Acknowledging those traits in others who are not good for me. Also acknowledging those traits in myself. I started getting comfortable telling people no. Stopped going out of my way for people who wouldn't even cross the street for me. Gentlemen, if you have listened this far, this is why this is for you. Own your own bullshit. Be accountable for your bullshit. Acknowledge your flaws as a man. Do not run from them. Face them head on. Accept them. Own them. And fix it. You cannot control what other people do, but you can control how you react to it. You have control of you. Don't be a whiny juvenile like me. You need to man up, own up why people don't want to be around you. Becoming a man is more than growth physically. I know grown adults who are still children. But for the next 5 years, I did mental aerobics. While hitting the gym in silence, I took 5 years to become unapologetically selfish. Not in a bad way, but in a way that protected me. Me, myself, and I needed to. I had to. I had to for the better. I could not live the rest of my life relying on the next one to come along, just hoping things will be different. For 5 years, I put the building blocks together to become someone with confidence, someone who can stand on his own 2 feet with a level head on his shoulders, someone who asked himself questions like, what if not everyone is meant to be with someone? And what kind of life will I have if I live the rest of my life alone? And what do I like to do? And what's missing from my life? The answer was simple. Exactly what I had said before. What was missing from my life was adventure and music. Music was missing. And I spent the next few years looking to start playing instruments again. I tried out for a few cover bands, but eventually found myself joining a beginner's original rock band with some locals that I had never met before. And just like that, a whole new circle of friends. I spent the next few years also building my relationship with my family. I started going on family vacations again, flying for the first time, traveling to new places I had never been. This is what was missing. I will tell you this now. I would rather spend the rest of my life alone than spend another waking moment with the wrong people in my life. That goes for friends, girlfriends, it doesn't matter. Life is too short to allow you to be second to anyone. Friends that put your feelings last, placing you on the back burner, it's time for new friends. Family doesn't get a pass either. You need to do what's best for you, and I mean that in the most direct and blunt way possible. Do not allow anyone to decide what's best for you. Take no shit without disrespecting those around you. Be kind, be chill, but know how to manage saying no. You got to do what's best for you. It's time for you to find your passion. It's time for you to stop relying on pointless relationships. It is time for you to respectfully do what you want, when you want, how you want. But be smart in what all of that means. You don't need to ask permission to do anything. You don't need to check in with anyone. No one needs to keep tabs on what you are doing with your life. If you want to be out with the guys or girls until the sun comes up because in that moment that's what was good for your soul, do it. You do not need to explain that to anyone. And not everything needs to be documented. Posting your every move on social media? Nah. Go ghost mode for a while. Stop allowing people to keep tabs. This is your freedom. If you're still thinking with your you're doing it wrong. Ladies, that point of the message goes for you too. We need to stop filling voids with temporary people. You lose focus on what's important. You. Get your mind right, and the right people will fall into place. I promise you that. Sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes you got to cut people off who may love you, but they just aren't good for you. It is what it is until you are okay again. They need to go. If they truly care about you, they will be there when you're ready. For the next 5 years, I got myself to a point where I started dating differently. I took it back old school. I started dating for exactly that. Just a conversation over dinner. Today's dating is so difficult. Everyone thinks because you are having dinner together that somehow you hold some sort of possession over this person. And if they have dinner with someone new the next night, then somehow they are wrong for it. What? The hell's wrong with all of you? Get over yourself. Dating is getting to know people. Dating is figuring out who's compatible and who's not. It's no one's fault, Debbie, that you decided to sleep with 5 first dates and don't understand why they never called. Maybe if you took the time to have 5 dates with one, with boundaries, Chad would then respect you. No shade to Debbie and Chad. But once you cross that line, you all act like they did something so terrible by seeing someone else instead of you. It takes 2 to tango. And here we are talking accountability for actions. When you change your patterns, you change how people see you. And you change the outcomes of your normal routines. I'll be real with you guys. The number of dates I went on where there was a point in the night where I literally flat out said, I am not sleeping with you. And because of what dating has become today, the confusion this caused is super annoying. Now we are stuck between me not being interested or they freak out by thinking they aren't good enough. You can definitely tell who is just playing hard to get, but also who genuinely felt stress relief to know that you don't have to keep putting the pressure of sex on dates. If you all are serious about dating, then date for what it is. Just conversation with other human beings. No expectations, no promises, no stress. If it works out, all of that will happen in time. If not, then no harm, no foul. I can tell you, I have met some amazing people just from dinner and a conversation. There's nothing wrong with exploring the different personalities that are in your own neighborhood. There are genuinely some great human beings that we can all aspire to be like. Making a connection doesn't always have to be physical, or even beyond friends. Do yourself a favor. By removing expectations and putting things on a pedestal, everything's going to work out. I promise. So to sum up the last phase of all of this, I encourage you all that are feeling lost or alone, here's basic dumbed down list of what worked for me, and maybe this is something that can help you out there. Get active. Gym, running, yoga, boxing, something to exert yourself. Trust me. Eat better. Cleaner diets build better moods. Cut out that junk. Get hobbies. Do something you enjoy. What do you like to do? Do that. Join a band, like me. Find a healthy outlet. Could be the gym. Take a class. Join a book club. Also, when you are ready, it is okay to meet new people. New people open new opportunities. Don't ever rely on someone else to chase your own dreams. Whatever sets your soul on fire is what you were meant to do in this life. We are here for a short time. Make it count. As I am here right now to tell you that because I put in the work, because I altered my own mindset and changed what influenced me to be a better man, a better human, I am now the front man for a band that I started 2 years ago. And now we are getting ready to do some amazing things. I have also been out of the country multiple times, halfway around the world, and still exploring my own country. Because I stuck to my word and stopped chasing people and started to chase my dreams, I have now found a lady who has shown me what it's like to not have to chase people. I won't stop chasing her, but it's nice knowing that I don't have to. It just naturally happened. One day it just clicked that she never wanted to leave. She genuinely wanted to be around me. And when I stopped to think about what it is that really mattered when it came to dating, it started to make sense. What more could I honestly ask for? She has told me that I inspire her. Like, wow, to hear that from someone is a whole different kind of proud. I promise you, when you get yourself in line, the right people fall into place. If you have stuck around this long, I thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope this may help shed some light on your dark times. There's an old cliche saying, it's really cheesy, but true. What's the definition of insanity? If you keep doing what you're doing, you will keep getting what you're getting. It's so basic and so true. That is why when I made the post on Facebook on this topic, I titled it, When I Changed, Everything Changed. I had to be honest with myself and change everything. And well, the rest speaks for itself. Look yourself in the mirror and ask if you like what's looking back. And then ask yourself if you're full of shit. Use this time to find out what you're willing to tolerate, not just from others, but from yourself. Awareness and accountability are amazing tools. I had a couple of other things written, but I just want to speak from the heart. Thank you if you've listened this long. I know it's been a long one, and I'm sure my reading has gotten so monotone and boring, but I just want to let you know that I appreciate every single one of you that took the time to find out a little bit more about me, allowing me to this podcast to open up a little bit, be a little bit vulnerable, and give you a little inside look at my history. I just will say this. If you ever get to a point where you feel like your life is over, I promise you there is life after death in this world. All it takes is one foot in front of the other to go in any different direction than what you're getting. You have unlimited options. I promise you, things will get better. I promise you that once you start looking yourself in the mirror and having those conversations with yourself and trying to figure out what it is that you're passionate about, and that's what you focus on, I promise you, all that juvenile, toxic, immature BS doesn't matter anymore. I am 38 years old, about to be 39, and call it dramatic or exaggerated, but I can tell you that I feel like I have carried the stress and the heartache of 3 lifetimes, and I'm still here. I promise you. Start going after those dreams. Start traveling. Do what's best for you. If you continue to keep around and pay attention to Autumn's life, to my life on this podcast, and what we're doing in our lives outside of this podcast, everything I just told you is coming full circle. dreams do come true. Thank you